So I'm going to do a little painting just using a 2-colour palette. I'm working on this Arches oil paper, which is specially prepared to take oil paint. It has a lovely smooth absorbent surface and is probably my favourite paper to work with. I've just taped off the edges. I like to have a little bit of clean space around the edge to pick the painting up with, I suppose, once I finish painting. I've got just the 2 colours out of my palette. So I'm using the Cobra water mixable oils, and I've got a burnt sienna and a titanium white, and I've also got the Winsor & Newton water mixable oil in Prussian blue. And I've just got a tear off palette that I'm using to put my paints on. I tend to start with my sky, so I'm just going to go straight in and work with my sky, and I'm actually going to just spread a little bit first because I want to be able to move the paint around. So I find if I just squirt it a little bit, it just loosens it off enough. So I'm just picking up a bit of the blue and a bit of the white on my palette knife and just sort of putting them down on the paper. And then I really like to do my skies with my fingers. I don't always wear gloves, it's just that I've got a bit of a funny cut on one of my fingers at the moment, so I've actually just put a glove on to protect it. But the beauty of working with the water mixable oils is, of course, everything washes off with soap and water. They're not toxic like a more traditional oil, which would need solvents to clean up afterwards. So this paint, where I'm rubbing it in, is actually soaking into the paper quite nicely, actually. So that will probably do to start with on the sky. And I shall probably work over that with some lighter colours in a bit. I'm just going to leave that as that is for the moment and come over and just work doing the sea. So I quite often with the sea I like to pick up just with a very small brush. So these are little children's brushes from IKEA. So just picking up some Prussian blue. Now it is quite dry in here, so again I'm just going to, this time I'm squirting my paint just to get it to move a bit more. I don't worry too much whether I've got a straight horizon because I can put headlands in and I can merge it afterwards, but you know, just trying to sort of take it across and get that beautiful Prussian blue that you so often get on the Cornish horizon. And again, the lovely thing with the water-based oils, I can wash that brush up afterwards just with soap and water. And I'm then going to come down, I'm going to actually pick up a bit of the blue and a bit of the brown, just loosely on the palette knife. I'm not actually mixing them in advance. And then just bringing them down, squirting once they're on the paper, and then just letting them sort of open up a bit. It's actually quite warm in the room I'm working in, so the paint is drying quite quickly. But you can see already how those colours, when they merge, create this beautiful dark. I very rarely use grey or black because actually I love the darks that you can get just with a blue and a brown. So that's actually looking quite interesting already. And then while those are wet, I'm just going to come in with the white. And the other tool that I often use is one of these squeegees. So this is just a silicone scraper. You can buy them especially for art use, or you can just buy ones in the cake department in a cookery store. Very much the same thing. So just fiddling around with it. I've got no clear aim really in mind of what I'm hoping to achieve here. Really sort of putting the paint down and, you know, seeing what effects I can get and whether I like it or not. And if I don't like it, then it's a piece of paper. I can either go over it later when it's dry or throw it away, or so I'm not sort of thinking of it as something precious. So I'm going to go in here with quite a lot of, probably too much brown actually. I should probably need to work into that. So that's the burnt sienna with some white. I'm actually going to put more white in there because that's just looking a little bit too brown for me. Just squeezing out a little bit more. Laying that in. Liking that little bit that's happening on the water's edge there. Sometimes I get really nice marks and then I manage to accidentally lose them again. But I've got beginning of some quite nice sort of wave effects happening here on the sea. So it's a very intuitive way of painting, I always think. It's just put some paint down and see what it looks like, and either take it off, put some more on, work back into it. But trying not to, I would say, try not to overthink it. Let the paint sort of do what it would quite like to do on its own without you doing too much to it. So you can guide it, you can sort of move it around, but you see there's some really interesting stuff beginning to happen in the middle here where I've just come in quite loose. I don't want to lose all these lovely marks I've made at the bottom, so just trying to sort of work around that. Where it's now so beginning to sort of get thicker, you have of course always got that option to draw into it. I don't actually want to here, but I've got enough paint to be able to scrape if I chose to. Yeah, I'm beginning to get some quite interesting marks happening here. What I might like is actually to bring some of this blue down. So maybe just very softly bring a line down there. This actually now is all looking a bit heavy for me, so although I actually really liked this to start with, I'm afraid it's going to have to go. And I think sometimes when you're painting there's a temptation when you do a bit you like to try and leave it and work around it and not disturb it, and actually sometimes you almost need to lose the bits you like for the rest of the painting to work. So I'm just working very, very quickly here, as this is just a sort of demo of a way that I might work. But I'm actually already beginning to see a couple of things in this that are quite interesting. So I don't like that, that's too heavy. Let's merge that out again. And I can, of course, when this is dry, I can go back over it, I can add more layers in. I don't like this now, I've got that, you see, that's too much, so that's going to have to all move out now. But I do like this idea of just, the light just catching down the middle here, running down the middle. So I need to work on my sky a bit more in a minute, but let's just blend this in. So I've now actually got a series of little rocks happening around here. I'm not really quite sure where this is going. There are probably marks that I liked earlier that I've now lost. Oh, that's quite nice there, isn't it? Again, let's just pull that down. Very much sort of thinking, what have I got? Responding to what I've got. What does it need? This blue swirl's now looking quite nice. But I'm actually now thinking that I might bring a little bit of the blue down. So just cleaning this off a bit. And then maybe put it in the paint and just bring the sea down a bit more. See what that looks like. Soften that a bit. Prussian blue is such a gorgeous colour. Yeah, not liking that so much. This is probably now getting a bit wet too, a bit thick to put much more on there. So really sort of not worrying about it, I suppose, is the thing that I think is most important. But just, going for it and seeing what happens. Got too much paint on there, as you can see, it's gone very, very thick. So that's quite nice now. And again, we might just have a few little waves out at sea. So I think what I need probably to do now is to just blend in my sky. And I might put some headland in actually. Let's just merge my sea and my sky there first. So I'm just using a finger for this because I've got far more control with the finger. And so you can do this, you know, with a glove on, or you can do it just with your bare fingers. It's actually easier with a finger because you can sort of clean up as you go, whereas I find with a glove that I'm constantly having to change fingers because the fingers are so covered in paint. Actually, what I might do is put a tiny bit of brown just in the sky there. And in fact, I probably won't now put any headland on. It doesn't now look like it needs the headland. That's gone up a bit too far on that end. So yeah, I think as a quick demo piece, I'm probably happy to say that's done.